Hey everyone, welcome to an NFL video. In this one we're going over some of my favorite GPP game stacks for week 2 of the NFL season on Draftkings. Before we continue though, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at CrispinL16. And if you'd like access to any of my extra content on my Patreon and my spreadsheets, links available in the description below. Anyway, let's get into the main portion of this video. First game stack I like the most is this Kansas City-Oakland game. It's going to be awesome for fantasy purposes. Oakland's mispriced here, so lots of good value. You can fit these guys in. There's plenty of value on the slate to do so. So my favorite stack, what I'm looking at right now, is Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and then skipping the running backs here, and then plugging in Sammy Watkins. Then you can go Travis Kelce, and then you can bring it back with Tyrell Williams. I like this a lot. And if you want to go all in on this stack, you can go Mecole Hardman, and then you can flex Darren Waller. Now that might be a little bit too much, but just for the main purpose of this video, let's just talk about this right now. So this is a good correlation stack. So we got Patrick Mahomes at the helm. He is the top quarterback on the slate for me, and he's going to be the top quarterback for a lot of people. Projected ownership has him coming in as the highest owned quarterback by a ton. So if you fade him, it's at your own risk. I don't really see him having a bad game. He's going up against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL last season. I know they looked really good last week, but emotions were high, and it's hard to play. It's hard to come back and play as good as you did the week before, coming off an emotional win. It's just how it is. Fizzles out a little bit. And the Raiders, they're going to be without Abrams and possibly Gary Conley. They were last season's 32nd DVOA pass D. So the Chiefs should smash here, especially the passing game. Patrick Mahomes is obviously an elite quarterback, pretty much the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's got some good weapons. I know he doesn't have Tyreek Hill, but that did not matter last week, and it should matter versus the Raiders. Sammy Watkins went nuts versus AJ Bouye and Jalen Ramsey. You should have no problem with this Oakland secondary. So I like pairing Mahomes and Sammy Watkins together. And then Mecole Hardman, he's going to be in the Tyreek Hill role. And I know if you look at the box score last week, he had 0 targets, but he was also on the field quite a bit. I believe it was about 78%, if I remember correctly. And that was just being thrown in the fire. Now they can game plan him in for a week, and he should be implemented in the system and definitely get some targets thrown his way, have some plays designed for him because he's got tremendous speed. He ran a 4.33 in the combine, so he's pretty much a light version of Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill hooked up a bunch. So I can see Hardman maybe catching a long ball, taking it for a touchdown. And then Travis Kelce is the obvious pairing with Patrick Mahomes. The Kelce-Mahomes combo is going to be very, very high owned this week, but it's for good reason. Oakland was 32nd DVOA versus the tight end position last season. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in football and one of the best pass catchers in football. If you combine him with receivers, he should be heavily targeted. There's no Tyreek Hill, so you have to think his target share goes up. So definitely like Travis Kelce. He smashed Oakland last season one game. I believe he had 160-some yards, 160-some yards, 2 touchdowns. One got called back or his foot was out. I can't remember exactly, but Travis Kelce should smash here. I think he's one of the safest plays on the board this week. Then Darren Waller, he's just way too cheap. All these Raiders got they played Monday night when the pricing came out, and then they had a pretty good game. And then the pricing came out beforehand, so they're all a little bit mispriced. I think they'd be priced higher if they ended up playing on Sunday, and they did exactly what they did. So Darren Waller, way too cheap. He was on the field the entire game. He's going to be heavily involved in this offense. The Raiders are going to use the tight ends quite a bit. He's very athletically gifted, so definitely like Darren Waller at 3,300. I don't mind if you play Kelce and Waller together because Waller's just so cheap. And I think I kind of skipped over Tyrell Williams here, but he was awesome the last game. Had over 100 yards and a touchdown. He's the number 1 wide receiver with AB gone. And he is way too cheap. He is going to be a chalk monster this week at 4,400, but it's great chalk. You got to eat that. The Raiders should have to play catch up most of the time of this game, unless they keep it close. I can't see them really keeping it too close, but if they do, that's fantastic because I'd love a back and forth game, especially for the Chiefs side. But they don't really care how much they're up; they'll just throw all game. But yeah, Tyrell Williams, he's in a smash buy here versus the Chiefs, not the best secondary in the NFL. So I think Tyrell Williams is a smash play. And honestly, if you want to even switch this and spend up at other positions, you could throw Derek Carr in here because if you think the Raiders are going to have to play catch-up, Derek Carr looked pretty good last week. He completed over 80% of his passes, and he should be fine in this matchup. So don't mind Derek Carr either, but I love this game for fantasy because the Raiders are just dirt cheap and the Chiefs are expensive, so it kind of evens out there, kind of a stars and scrubs stack. So That's one of my favorite stacks of the week. And then the next one's coming from that Saints-Rams game, which if you guys have watched any of my other videos, you guys know I love this game for fantasy purposes. Let me find it. All right, so starting with the quarter. Well, okay, let me show you my favorite pairings. So I like Jared Goff just because he's a little bit cheaper. And then I like some Cooper Kupp. And then I like Kamara. And I like Michael Thomas. So you're getting 2 from each side. You can use, you can obviously use Brandon Cooks or Robert Woods, but we'll get into that later. So for Jared Goff, the Saints defense is very, very good versus the run. So that kind of funnels into them being worse versus the pass because teams just choose to throw on them. And, Todd Gurley has concerns about his knee health. And then Malcolm Brown, he rushed in 2 touchdowns. So I'm not really too interested in Gurley this week. But I am interested in the passing game, especially the Jared Goff to Cooper Kupp pairing, because Cooper Kupp is going to see P.J. Williams, who is the soft spot on the Saints defense. Brandon Cooks should see Marshawn Lattimore. Robert Woods will see a good amount of Eli Apple. I mean, they can all hit. I mean, Hopkins did very good versus Marshawn Lattimore, but it's DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, Brandon Cooks is not in his league. But still, Cooper Kupp gets the softest matchup on the board for the Rams out of the slot versus P.J. Williams, who we picked on a lot last year. I don't know if you guys, how many of you were actually here for last season. I probably only had like 100 subscribers last year. But we picked on P.J. Williams almost every single week, and we're going to continue to use him. We're going to continue to target him in certain spots like this one. Kupp last season versus the versus the Saints. He had 6 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. So definitely like Cooper Kupp. He's the cheapest of all the Rams receivers. He had 10 targets last week, but he only had 46 yards, which is a little concerning. I have to think that can only go up. That seems like the floor if you're going to catch 7 balls. So definitely Cooper Kupp. Brandon Cooks can take the top off the defense. He's a big play threat. Robert Woods, 6,400. He's the most expensive guy, but he saw 13 targets last week, which was the highest of all the receiving group. So Robert Woods is definitely in play as well, but I prefer Cooper Kupp. I know Jared Goff was bad last week, but he plays much better at home in front of the home crowd. So I like Jared Goff versus the Saints pass D. Then in the same game, if we think they're going to put up points and the Saints are actually road dogs here, they're going to have to throw the ball. They can't rely on the run game. Kamara is obviously a great running back, but he's also a great receiver. He's one of the best pass catchers out of the backfield in the NFL. He makes great things happen in open space. He excelled versus the Rams last season. The Rams just got absolutely destroyed by Christian McCaffrey, who has a similar skill set to Alvin Kamara, so I think Alvin Kamara has no problem in this game. He's going to be one of the highest owned backs of the week, but he's my favorite running back of the week. He's my highest projected back as well. So definitely love Alvin Kamara. I don't think he's going to be low owned or anything. He will be chalky, but I think it's a really good chalk. Then Michael Thomas, one of the best receivers in the NFL, is going to have the most targets on this team. He should be able to smash here. He smashed the Rams before. He's got 3 touchdowns, 3 career games versus them. Absolutely smoked the Rams in that regular season game the one time versus Marcus Peters. He should see a lot of Marcus Peters again. So do like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and then pairing him up with Jared Goff, Cooper Kupp. And if you want to add another pass catcher from the Rams in Robert Woods and Brandon Cooks, I got no problems with that. Okay, that's enough from that game. Let's go on to the Patriots versus Miami. I'm not going to play anyone from Miami, but I do like this Patriots side of the ball. And the further into the week we go, the more it looks like Antonio Brown is playing. I think that's an interesting GPP play. I don't know how much of the playbook he knows. I know the Patriots system is tough to learn. A lot of receivers go there. And then they ended up retiring, but obviously Antonio Brown's not going to retire. He's an elite receiver. He's still got all the talent in the world. Arguably the GOAT. I know Jerry Rice is there, but a lot of people think Antonio Brown will be the best receiver of all time. I can see it. He's very, very good. There's videos of him practicing, so he looks acclimated. He just went live on Instagram in the TB12, was it the training gym, whatever. So if he plays, I don't mind taking shots at Antonio Brown. This would be a great game to get him going. It's not like he has to have a full understanding of the playbook versus Miami to have success versus Miami, who just got toasted by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And the Patriots obviously have a much better system, more established players, and they got the GOATs. They got Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. So I don't mind Tom Brady as my quarterback this week. I think he's a very safe play, as Miami just got destroyed last week. If you want to play James White, that's fine. I think they're going to be in a position where they can run the ball in the second half, so I don't really love James White, but yeah, I mean, he should get his work, and he's only 5,100. But if he's playing Antonio Brown, I don't mind it, guys. We don't need much to, well, I guess we don't, I mean, we need some at 7,000, but versus Miami. He should be fine. And then I like Josh Gordon. I like Julian Edelman. Now, I'm not saying this is what exactly I'm going to do. I just think they're all three in play. So let's say Antonio Brown does play. Josh Gordon will see a lot of Eric Rowe at corner. And if you guys don't know who Eric Rowe is, Hollywood Brown knows who Eric Rowe is. He destroyed him last weekend. That was the guy Brown was destroying. He got all 4 of his targets versus him, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also gave up a touchdown to Miles Boykin. So if Antonio Brown is playing, Josh Gordon's lined up against Eric Rowe, he should have a field day. And even if Antonio Brown doesn't play, I like Josh Gordon still. Antonio Brown will probably be matched up with Xavier Howard, which I know it doesn't sound great, but that's also not great for Xavier Howard because it's going to be tough to beat Antonio Brown. You know, Bill Belichick's going to draw some plays to get Antonio Brown open. I don't know how they do it, but they get guys open every single time. It makes no sense, but it's what happens. Julian Edelman probably would be the biggest hit here because he's priced right near Antonio Brown, and he does not have the big play upside he does. Now, he has the safety of being Tom Brady's guy. A lot of people think Julian Edelman's going to take a hit in this offense with Antonio Brown on the team now, but he's playing the Wes Welker role, and that was never in jeopardy, especially when Randy Moss was there. So I don't think Julian Edelman will take too big of a hit, but I will say I don't like that price tag of $6,900. But I think all of these guys are in play. Tom Brady should be able to feast on Miami, which pretty much looks like a JV squad. Now the only problem is they are 19-point favorites, so they might shy away from the pass later on in this game. But I don't know. Sometimes the Patriots don't care, and they'll just be bullies and put up 60 points, and they'll still throw the ball. So I do like the Patriots side of this game. There is no one on Miami. I am interested. You can pay me to play anyone on Miami. And the next stack I like is not really a big stack, but I don't mind the Ben Roethlisberger to Juju Smith-Schuster stack. The Patriots looked pitiful last week, but things have changed. They are back home where Big Ben has played much better in his career, and the Seattle Seahawks just got absolutely killed by Andy Dalton and company. So we were not seeing that coming. I actually played Seattle in a lot of my DFS lineups last weekend, but they gave up over 63 points to the wide receiver position last week. That is terrible. And I know the Steelers sucked last week, but that was versus New England, and now we get a soft matchup in Seattle. Big Ben plays much better at home, and Juju Smith-Schuster, one of the best receivers in the game. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. He's just got a great personality. I know that has nothing to do with DFS, but it makes it easier to root for the guy. So definitely love Juju. He's the number one for Ben Roethlisberger, which has been a profitable position in for many years. So do like this Big Ben to Juju stack, and I think that's really all I got for my favorite stacks. It's pretty much for me. It's going to be the Chiefs and Raiders this weekend, and then the Saints and the Rams. Then if I want to get a little different, I can do the Patriots and then his weapons, and then Ben to Juju, which I do think Juju has some ownership, so maybe it's not the most low. I forget what I just said. I was talking about Ben and Juju, but I lost my mind, but whatever. And also, one more thing, Dak Prescott to Amari Cooper could be okay. It worked out. Dak Prescott went absolutely nuts versus the Giants. That was back at home, though, and I actually do prefer Zeke in this game. But it could go lower owned because they're away from home versus Washington, which I think Amari Cooper will be just fine. And so can Dak Prescott. He looked great last game. He got 36 Draftkings points. Amari Cooper got 25. Both great players, so don't mind that either. And there's really just nothing else I like too much outside of the guys we just talked about. So maybe a Josh Allen to John Brown, something like that. We already went over Derek Carr. Not really seeing much else. I don't want to play Gardner Minshew, I'll tell you that. So yeah, I think that's going to do it. You can obviously use Drew Brees instead of Jared Goff if you want, and then pair him up with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. That's fine too. Maybe if you want to go Big Ben and Juju Smith-Schuster and throw on Tyler Lockett, run it back, that could be fine. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. Deshaun Watson to DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller versus Jacksonville. Yeah, the Chiefs just had a field day versus them, so maybe if you want to get them a lower ownership, which is on an elite weapon. I guess it's pretty near elite offense with Deshaun Watson. He's a great quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in football. Will Fuller is a great secondary option. That could be a nice lower owned GPP stack, but not something I'm in love with. Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews could be interesting. I'm not going to chase that Marquise Brown game from last week. He barely was on the field. I know they blew him out, but he only played about 14% of those snaps. So, but yeah, that's pretty much going to do it. Main things from here: Chiefs, Raiders, Saints, Rams, Patriots, and the Big Ben to Juju. So anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. Enjoy the Thursday night game. I know I will. That's what I'm about to watch right now. I wish you guys the best of luck on that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.